We have all had painful events in our lives that can lead to depression, anxiety, addiction, or broken relationships. But here's a secret. It is not about what happened to us that causes suffering. It's the stories we believe about ourselves. Join us as we shine light on how to rewrite our stories, avoid the shadows of shame, and travel along the pathway to joy, love, and connection. It's the Finding Peace podcast with your host, Amazon best-selling author, Troy L. Love.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Finding Peace podcast. My guest today is Sher. Sher is a master intimacy and relationship coach, and she also has been trained using the Finding Peace model along with somatic energy training. She uses all of that to be able to create a holistic wellness experience for her clients. So as you listen, you're going to hear that she's done a lot of work. She's done a lot of introspection. She's been involved in Al-Anon for a while. And so she is able to walk through this process in a beautiful, beautiful way. Please welcome me in joining Sher to the Finding Peace podcast as she sits in the healing seat. Well, and good morning. Thank you for doing this with me.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. I spent some time reviewing my materials again last night and this morning and doing my story and my worksheet again on a new topic. And so it felt really good and congruent to do that.
Awesome. Do you want me to share my screen to give you prompts, or do you?
Sure.
Okay, because I do that for people to help them a little bit.
Oh,
So
that's
can you
fine.
tell us a little bit about the issue that you would like to have more peace and joy about?
Yeah. Every time I get a text message or see my daughter's name show up on my phone, I get instant anxiety and fear and dread and sadness and all the emotions that come with that because it's usually connected to her asking for money. So the fact is, when my daughter sends me a message, it is to ask for something. And it means it's something important, like she doesn't have food or rent. And I haven't had peace around that for so long due to her addiction.
Mm. What is it about that produces so much anxiety for you?
It immediately puts me back into how I grew up. I fought to get out of poverty, and my mom was on welfare, and we were sometimes homeless or hungry. And then I did all this work in my mind to heal and grow and change the opportunities in my life. And now my daughter is an identical mirror to my mother. So it's like I'm being thrown back into my childhood about starvation and lack.
Right. So when you see the text message or you see her name come up on the caller ID, that is when it hits.
Instantly. Instantly, my whole body just like contracts.
So what wound does that hit for you
Yeah,
when?
wow, that's a good one because I think about with my relationship with my daughter, what it brings up, and then my relationship to self based on growing up that way. Because with my daughter, it's like a huge loss, and of course, abandonment because she was missing for years, and then she was missing as a drug addict in her body, and betrayal
Mm,
and abuse because she was very abusive at times, and so was her drug dealer boyfriends, etc., threatening to kill me. So it kind of brings up a lot of those. I don't know about neglect as much, but definitely the betrayal and the loss.
tell me about her being gone for a while.
Yeah, so after she started, she was clean for 7 years, and it was just a miracle. It was just a miracle to me. And then she had my granddaughter, and I think that the whole birth and deciding not to be in relationship caused her, for whatever reason, to start using again. And then we had to take away from my granddaughter's safety. I took her away from my daughter, and she went missing on the streets for about 4 years. And it's pretty cold in Canada in the wintertime, and so I knew she was homeless out there at minus 40 or not alive. And that was a really hard time.
I can't even imagine. I don't.
I mean, it didn't matter how many detectives I hired or what I did, we couldn't find her because she didn't want to be found.
Wow. So a lot of wounds get stirred up just by seeing her name on the caller ID. And then
Just her name.
you also identified that it's also tied to wounds that you had growing up. So when you look at the wounds you had growing up, what would you say those wounds are?
Definitely abandonment. My mom would just leave and she'd go off with another man at times, and we'd have no idea if she was coming back. And I was the oldest, and I had three younger siblings. And so I was the caretaker and I was trying to take care of them. So there was definitely neglect and a lot of physical abuse and sexual abuse resulted it because my father left my mom and she didn't have the mental abilities to take care of four kids by herself. So it only got worse.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Thank you.
The
It
fact that
is.
you've turned out as amazing as you are says a lot about your character. But I'm so sad that you had to go through all of that.
Well, I think it's what made me stronger. And, ultimately, it's like iron sharpens iron. I truly believe that. So when I look at things that scare me or cause my attachment wounds to get triggered, I really want to find out why and what I can do differently because it really hinders a lot of my life when I'm dealing with this one person who's very
Hmm.
important to me because it's my one and only.
Right.
Yeah.
So when those wounds get stirred up, what's the core belief that gets activated for you?
Typically, my core belief is like, I'm not good enough, not smart enough. I didn't work hard enough, the
Mm,
whole thing enough. Or
I'm
maybe
not
I worked
enough.
too much. I wasn't a good enough mom. That's why she went to drugs.
Mm, yeah. And when you think about the wounds from growing up, what's the core belief there?
I wasn't lovable. I wasn't
Mm,
enough. I wasn't good enough for them to want to keep because I was adopted at 12 and nobody fought to keep me. And so that was the one thing I was really intent on with my daughter was staying single so I could spend as much time with her as I
mm,
could and not introduce any unknown male into her life from a safety perspective. So I just felt like
right.
there was nobody took care for my safety either.
Yeah. So as those wounds and those core beliefs get activated, what do you end up feeling?
Usually it's sadness. When I see her text message, it's immediately fear of like what's happening now. But it quickly, like within a second, goes immediately to sadness because I know that she wants something.
Mm,
And it's not about the something she wants, because for a long time, it was easier to just give her what she wanted than it was to address whatever the issue was. Until I realized one day, and of course, thank you to all my training, but also going to my program of Al Anon, that I was actually able to say, I'm giving her these things so that I can make myself feel more comfortable. So
mhm.
there was this realization that was like, oh, I'm not doing it for her. I'm actually doing it to soothe my emotions to know that she's not living on the street. She's in a hotel I've provided.
Yeah.
So I could take care of, that momentarily. But now I have an agreement with myself and with my husband that I'm not going to just jump and pay for things until we've had a conversation.
Mm.
It's really uncomfortable, Troy.
Oh,
It's really uncomfortable because if I had no means to do it, it would be so much easier just to say no. But
right.
when I have the means and I know it's still wrong, it's a real challenge.
Oh, just tugs on your heartstrings, I
It
bet.
does, especially when there's children involved. If it was just her, it would be like, okay, I'm sorry, but after multiple treatment centers and educations and et cetera, you need to grow up. But when there's children involved, it makes it a different level of the playing field.
So
And
different.
it is so different.
Yeah, I get it. Totally get it. All right. So as that's happening, then what shadows of shame show up for you?
Sometimes it's the rebel and it's just like, forget it. I don't even know why I had a kid. It's like I don't have one anyway. Screw her, kind of thing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sick of this. I'm going to block her, um, kind of thing. And definitely the judge, because you
Mm.
didn't do this right. You didn't spend enough time with her. You shouldn't have divorced her father. These are the things. And then the impotent one really feels like, okay, I give up. I've just done
Mm.
kind of like Pooh Bear. I'm like, I've just done it all and now it's done and I can't do anything to fix it. And which I know is not true. I know I always have choice, but in that moment, that also is showing up and screaming kind of at me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. All right. What does your judge look like?
It looks like my mom.
Yeah.
It's like my mom standing over me, and was a very big figure and human, and so I just feel like this huge physical presence standing over me and shaking their finger at me.
And what are some of the things that she says?
Well, you know what it's like to be a parent. You watched me. Why didn't you do it differently? You're such a failure. Doesn't matter everything else you did. See, you're no different than me, and that's kind of what I hear from it.
Hmm. And what does the impotent one look like for you?
The impotent one is really small, and it's almost like I could put it in my pocket, and it's just like my inner child. And it's just
Mm.
like, you've done everything you can. Why don't you pay attention to me? Heal me, help me. And
Mm.
and it's just this little squeaky voice that's just learning to use her voice. Very small.
Mm. Like a little Polly Pocket.
Yeah, like a Lily Polly Pocket. That's right. That's exactly it.
And then the rebel.
The rebel's my dad with his middle finger up going, screw y'all. I get to have
Ooh.
my own life. And this is, I work for a living and nobody can tell me what to do and blah, blah, blah. So, and I can do what I want with my money. I don't need to talk to my husband about it because I earn my own money. You know,
Mm.
so even though I've already made this agreement and I want to honor that agreement, that rebel is screaming at me like, you don't owe anybody an explanation. Do what
Mm.
you want.
You don't know your husband an explanation?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
got it.
I've rationalized in my brain that I earned the money. So, which is not
Mm.
true. And I know that, but it's, it's then going, now hold on a second. If you want to honor your agreements, you need to do what you said you're going to do for your own health and well being.
Yeah,
So
I
that's what I
got it.
have to do. I have to turn back to the rebel and go, no, I'm in this relationship I've made a commitment to, and this is my agreement. So I can't just go do that, whether it's my resources, his resources, or a combination.
So, how do these shadows of shame affect your relationship with your daughter and the relationship with your husband?
Well, with my daughter, it's almost like I just don't want to deal with her because the minute I
Mm-hmm.
see that, because she lives in Canada and so she's far away, and I usually pre COVID would see her 3 or 4 times a year. Now it's maybe once a year. So, I hesitate to want to call. I'm nervous to open up the text for a while. So it just makes it look like I'm staring back at my childhood, and she looks like my mother. So when I see
Mm.
photos of her, she looks so much like my mom. And I look at her children that she has custody of, and I think that's a little me being abused or being neglected. So it makes me want to stay away from her.
Hmm. So they do a really good job of helping with that.
Yeah, yeah, they block the pain, so to speak.
Hmm. Yeah, they run interference for you.
hmm They're like, you've had enough. You can't take anymore. It's almost like I'm a full sponge that hasn't fully been wrung out enough to start
Hmm.
being able to cope with it again.
How would you like to want to respond to her instead?
I'd like to be able to respond with an open heart, with more understanding and empathy for the choices she's made, that this is the life that she's chosen and there's nothing I can do about it, which is a really hard thing for me to say because I believe I can move mountains and on my own will. And then, I think with my higher power as well, I'm like, I can make this change. I can fix this for her. And I just want to have some peace around the fact that this isn't something for me to fix anymore.
Mm. All right. So there's a part of you that says that you're supposed to fix this.
Yeah, I'm her mom. I'm
Mm.
supposed to make things better for her.
And that's what the judge says, right?
Mhm.
This is all you. You have to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
And
right.
I made the decision to raise her on my own right after she was about 2 years old. So I even put more pressure on myself because I was like, you're the one and only. You made this decision. You wanted to do this without her father. And it was because he was an alcoholic and I couldn't trust him. And
Mm.
so I'm the one who raised her. So I can't go, oh, that person over there, that's their responsibility because it was just me.
All right. So as they run interference, what do they get you to do to numb or protect yourself so that you don't have to deal with it for a little while?
Sometimes it's work. I throw myself into work because that
Mm.
validates my worth in my mind that, okay, if I don't feel like I'm powerful and I can make a difference over here, then I'll go spend more time mentoring people, learning something new, you know, busy work.
Right.
And then I run into an exhaustion at a point and I just go, I just will watch TV or something to check out for a little bit. So it can be that or exercise. So those three things are typically my numbing out behaviors. It used to be food. When I was double my size 20 years ago, I was taught by my mom that you eat if you're happy and if you eat if you're sad. And so it took a
Mm.
lot of brain relearning for me and it shifting my mindset that that wasn't a healthy numbing behavior. And I'm not saying any are numb or good numbing behaviors. It's just a different one. And it just showed me how I've changed what I use as a
Yeah.
tool.
Right. We don't need to shame the numbing behaviors. We can understand that we're doing those to protect ourselves. They may or may not be healthy, but they're all a way of trying to deal with the pain, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
And
overachievement, I've always tried to just do better and be a better example for her. And then to also show that I am enough. And it's exhausting. It's just
oh yeah,
exhausting.
right. So when you do that, what are the mutated emotions that you end up feeling?
Sometimes, well, definitely shame. Shame's a huge one.
Mm.
Sometimes I feel just plain hopeless, like nothing's ever going to change. I'm not going to have a relationship with her. And so it's usually those two. I'm usually have a lot of shame, or I'm hopeless about the situation.
Mm. Those are not very happy feelings.
No, no, and then it spills over obviously into the rest of my relationships and interactions, which are not
In
healthy.
what way? In what way?
Yeah. So if I'm feeling shame about my daughter, and I've made this agreement with my partner, then I'm really nervous to sit down and say to him, hey, I heard from her, because he gets really triggered when he hears her name because I don't celebrate Mother's Day. And I remember last year him saying to her, you've ruined 8 Mother's Days with my wife because you've hurt her so badly, because it doesn't even feel like I'm a mother. So it even spills over into my relationship with my spouse,
Mm.
in me wanting to talk about her, approach the subject, because I know the response he's going to have initially out of protection. And then it makes it hard to get to him and say, but I have a need here. Um,
Mm.
to talk to you about this, where I'm not getting another emotional blast. It's like I get one eruption from my daughter, I give myself one, and then I get one from him. And I'm like, okay, I actually need help here processing my emotions.
What do you need?
I just need acceptance, just to be heard, really, just to not expect anything other than just to hear me. And sometimes I'll call my sponsor in my Al Anon program and do that first before I decide if I want to talk to my partner. But he's very intuitive and empathic, and so if something's going on with me, he knows. And we live so closely together that and we work from home most of the time, that he knows if something's going on. So I have to be able to talk to him about it, but first I need to modulate my own emotions about it and get clear. And so usually that's when I will reach out to people in my Al Anon program because they understand what's going on for me.
Got it. So I want you to imagine that we have all three of those shadows, the impotent one, the judge, and the rebel, and they're standing there between you and your daughter. I want you to just look at them, and I want you to imagine that you say to them, I see you. I see you standing there. And just notice what happens as you tell them that you see them.
They're shrinking and backing up quite a bit. It's almost like they were each in front of me as I was trying to get to my daughter, and the little impotent one is in my heart, kind of protecting my heart.
Mm. So I want you to ask them, what wound or pain are you trying to prevent me from experiencing?
I'm getting hurt again from trusting that people won't betray you, because it's a common theme in my life. And so it's like she betrayed me, my mother betrayed me, my father did. We've had trust issues and issues in our marriage that related to trust. And so I have a really strong underlying, I'm going to be let down, I'm going to be taken advantage of.
So really trying to protect you from another betrayal.
Yes. Yeah. Because I feel pretty saturated by that. It's like it hurts to even think about opening up to that again.
Mm-hmm.
So really, when I see her on the phone, I get that anxiety, like what's happened now, like from that perspective. What
Mm-hmm.
other, and it's almost like a conversation sometimes I have with my higher power. I'm like, okay, why? Why are we still doing this? Why do I still feel afraid to let people in?
Mm-hmm. Well, because you have a massive betrayal wound.
Yes. Yeah. And it's still healing.
People.
And I try to remind myself that because of the last year with my spouse and I, the difficult year we had. And I try to remind myself, you were just recently re traumatized and it re triggered itself. So it opened up again. And, but it's definitely stopping me from having a meaningful connection. They're in the way of me even trying to connect with her, other than her being a stranger.
Yeah. So can you imagine thanking them for trying to take care of your betrayal wound?
Yes. Yeah.
And what happens?
And the the rebel has gone quiet and off into the dark, and the
Mm.
judge is completely silent, and I don't even feel his presence. And the impotent one has just about gone, I mean, just totally in my pocket now instead of holding out my heart. So the path is clear now. They're not loud,
Okay,
they're not big, they're not scary.
beautiful. Now, if you can just do a body scan from the top of your head all the way down to your toes. And I want to ask your body a question now that the shadows are gone. It's just you. What is your new truth?
I did the best I could at the time with the tools that I had, and I'm open to learning to have more connection with her. Yeah. My new truth really is I did the very best I could.
Hmm. So, one of the shadow stories that the core belief is I'm not enough. So, when you say I did the best I could, does that mean that I am enough?
I can't quite get there, Troy. I
No.
don't think I
Where's
can quite get there and say I am enough, because when I got remarried 7 years ago, I felt like I was enough. I was finally going to be in a safe relationship where, with all my training and all of my work, I thought, okay, this is it. I know how to do this. And when we had our betrayal last year, it just opened everything back up to my childhood
Mm,
again, where my dad cheated on
absolutely.
my mom and my mom cheated on my dad. And it rocked my sense of I am enough again, because
Mm,
it was something huge for me. And so I want to believe that. I need to believe that because I walk around in the world sometimes thinking I have to do more and be more just to be loved and accepted. And it's exhausting.
mm. Do you remember what that felt like when you did feel that you were enough?
Yeah, it felt whole, light, beautiful. I felt confident in my own skin. I wasn't worried about what was going to happen on the outside. Um, and it was a great feeling. It was peaceful.
Mm,
There was connection. There was trust. All of those things. And once that betrayal got severed again, it was like everything reopened. And now I'm healing it layer by layer to get back up to the new foundation of our relationship, not only with my
right.
daughter but with my husband, and they came together at the same time. Her
Mm,
having her mishap was not much before we started dating, so the two of them
mm.
together, and they're both addicts, and so it's really interesting how I'm right in the middle between two people, and one's not working a program and one works a program, and so it's very, very different.
So, is there any part of that truth that I'm enough that still resides in your body?
There's still some, like, I can feel it in my gut, that I am enough. It's when it starts to get to my chest for me to really feel it and know in my heart that I am, and then to speak the words, it's kind of caught right at the heart level where I need to probably do more forgiveness of myself because
Mm.
I'm so hard on myself about her. And
Okay.
that'll make it
So,
easier.
what shadow is blocking you from being able to move it up into your heart?
The judge,
Mm.
because he's
What's it
still,
say?
every once in a while saying, you don't deserve to be happy.
Mm,
Yeah. Don't expect anything from anybody. You've got to do it yourself. They're screw ups.
mm.
They're only
Okay.
going to hurt you. You should live on your own. You
So
should
the
run
judge
away.
so you said the judge was gone for the moment.
He is
Okay. So breathe into where you feel that in your tummy. And what color is it?
gold,
What temperature is it?
warm, like sunlight,
And what and what texture is it?
soft.
Okay. And right now, like, what size is it?
It's huge. It's like a boulder size.
Okay, so breathe into that. With every breath you take, allow it to expand just a little bit more and see if you can have it move up through your whole body, through your heart, up to your neck, shoulders, head, if possible.
It's almost like it's glitter and it's kind of coming up to my heart, lighting up the pathway.
I love that.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
how it feels. It feels like it was a clogged pipe. It was almost like
okay.
having to blast its way up through the clog to get to my heart.
Did it do it? Okay, so just breathe into that. You're enough. You did the best you could. And your daughter's standing there with her hand out, wanting something. What happens?
I look at whatever it is she's asking for as if it's like an object in her hand, and I'm getting to be curious about what it is instead of immediately reacting. So I'm just kind of looking at it without it judging her or judging me. It's just looking at it as a request, as if a client or a friend asked for something. So non-emotional, whereas previously it would be an immediate explosive feeling in my body of emotion. This is more of a curious, let me see if this is something I feel like I can do or not.
Hmm.
But with compassion, because I look at it and if it was anybody else asking me, I would be the one who'd say, yes, absolutely. But with her before, I couldn't do that. So now
Mhm.
I look at it with kind of some curiosity of whatever this is, not who she is. And that makes it a
Mm.
little safer and easier to want to still connect with her and not make it about the issue of what she wants.
Mm. It's beautiful.
Yeah, because I really, really miss her. And I would
Yeah.
like to have some sort of relationship with her, especially as I'm getting older. And I want to be able to have that without it being hostile. And also without having to feel like I'm having to get all these other shadows of shame out of the way just to get to her.
Mm. To breathe into that truth again. What is it?
It is light, it is acceptance, it is connection with her without judgment, and being curious about her
And what
request, not about who she is.
and, and what is the truth?
Truth for me is I am enough and I did everything I could.
Uh, so from this place of truth, what do you need?
Acceptance and um, probably a little bit of safety and security.
So from where can you get it?
The acceptance part, especially, is where I go to my friends in my Al-Anon program, my sisters in that program, because we've all had those moments. And I remember getting that phone list and thinking years ago, I'm never calling these people and talking about my personal business. I'm like, how you'd hear the judge there, right? Keep quiet, the politician,
Hmm.
keep quiet. Um,
Yeah.
but now, after I've learned to pick up the phone, I know I can be heard and have that safety and security and assurance that I'm doing what's right for me in the moment. And then also go out and do something healthy. I've usually found if I get outside and do some novelty or pleasure, do something that I would enjoy, walking on the beach, feeling the sand, that
Mm.
helps me get back into an embodied way.
Mm. And for safety?
And for safety, really just being able to love myself and
Mm.
to remind myself. And then part of that's my gratitude at night is going back and reminding myself what I'm grateful for instead of marinating on what's happened in the past.
So what's going to be different?
Because next time I see her request, I will look at it from a curious perspective first. And I'm going to put a little tape on my computer with that word so that it reminds me to be curious versus reactionary. And that feels really light and easeful for me because of being in the helping profession. I want to help others and I'm curious about what they show up and share with me. And so, why, it would be wonderful to be able to do that with my own child.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, it will be
Thank you.
really interesting.
Thank you for doing this with me today. How are
Thank
you
you for doing
feeling?
it with me. It's been amazing. I feel so much lighter and cleaner. Like I said, I'm a sparkle glitter gal. So for me, it's kind of like it eroded all that negative stuff. And it's like, whew, perfect. Perfect.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Well, thank you for spending time with me and the listeners.
I'm glad. I hope it gives somebody a new visual too, because it really just opened up a lot for me today. So I'm grateful for the process and for your program.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Finding Peace podcast. If you love the show or want to ask a question, let us know by going to findingpeaceconsulting.com. There, you can also learn about the Finding Peace 5-Day Challenge. Remember to subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss the next episode. And if you are listening on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. It really does help other people find this podcast more easily. Thank you for spending part of your journey with us. And a special thanks to Johnny Porter for producing the show, and A.G. Flux for the new background music. Copyright Finding Peace Consulting.